Good morning. I'm Undersheriff Pat Ivey. This is a follow-up to an officer-involved shooting from yesterday morning. I appreciate y'all coming here today. I'm going to talk about, go back over some of the details from yesterday and then give some additional information. One point of clarification, we sent out a correction yesterday of the officer that was involved during the press release at the scene. I said Harold as a first name. His first name is actually Howard. Okay, Smith. Yesterday, a little before 7 a.m., again, officers were dispatched to a 0 and 63, which is an armed dispute. Within moments, the call was changed to a home invasion robbery with a weapon. That was called in when an individual, 29-year-old Jacob Sean DePetris, that last name is spelled D-E-P-E-T-R-I-S-T-S, went to the location on Shims Road. That location is a residence of his ex-girlfriend's relatives. He went there to make contact with her in reference to some domestic situations that they're going through. He was armed with a shotgun, as you see here from this picture. That is the actual shotgun. He had that in his right hand, and in his left hand he had a large bottle of liquor. He approached a side door. It's a door that on this residence that opens into a utility room where the washer and dryer are kept. He actually fired the shotgun through the window portion of the door, and then apparently reached in and unlocked and let himself in. That round, then, the pellets from the shotgun shell actually struck the washer machine or dryer that were in that room. The occupants of the home were alerted to the loud noise, came out of the master bedroom and into a den area where then they saw the subject, who they recognized to be Jacob. He began threatening them, and he was asking for the location, I believe, of his ex-girlfriend. They were frightened, in fear. At that point, they retreated into the master bedroom and attempted to close and lock the door. He made a statement that the door's not going to stop me, the door's not going to keep me out. The female then, because it was a male and female, went into the master bedroom bathroom that was inside the master bedroom and locked the door. The male resident attempted to arm himself with a rifle. He had trouble getting his rifle to load, and at that point, Jacob kicked in the bedroom door and entered. At that point, the male resident exited the bedroom and actually exited out of the home with his cell phone and began to call the police. He went to the master bedroom bathroom door and began kicking at that door. The female occupant was hiding in the shower. He was successful in kicking in the door, and he approached her and he put the shotgun to her head and he pulled the trigger. The shotgun did not discharge. He fumbled with it for a minute, trying to get it to work. He then grabbed her and drug her back into the den area, where again he said, he wanted her to call to her significant other who had just run out of the house, because he basically made statements to the effect that, hey, you guys are going to die today or this morning. At that point, he then took her at gunpoint out into the front yard and said, yell for him, tell him to come to you. She was trying to plead with him. He put the shotgun to her head again, and he attempted to pull the trigger again, and again it did not fire. Knowing that the shotgun had already fired through the side door, we don't know the explanation of why it did not fire these two times. But we will say that at one of the locations where it was described by the victims in reference to him racking the gun about it not firing, there was a live shell casing laying there, which would give evidence that he was indeed trying desperately to rack and fire the gun in an attempt to kill them. At that point, when he began to struggle again with the gun, again fumbling with a rifle in one hand and a bottle of liquor still in the other hand, the female occupant ran to another residence, which was basically on the same property but slightly behind that front residence where the initial confrontation had occurred, which that residence is also owned and the people that reside there are also relatives of the front home. It's like an extended family. The subject was making his way to that back residence when, at that time, the male subject who was hiding outside was on the phone with police. And in the second residence now, who would be the grandmother of, I believe, his ex-girlfriend, they were attempted to make contact with police also from that residence. At that time, it had been just a few minutes. The first officer arrived, I believe, within 6 or 7 minutes. Officer Howard Smith. There's a long driveway that goes in between the two residences, and it's where he pulled his police car down between the two residences. The witnesses say that they saw the police officer pulling down between the driveway, and that is where the subject was located. Officer Smith, in his issued marked police car, and he's wearing a police uniform similar to mine, located the subject, and he put the spotlight from the side of the police car illuminating the subject. The subject, still armed with a rifle in his right hand and the bottle of liquor in his left hand, began to do the shotgun in a motion such as this, raising it up towards the officer. The officer, with the light still on the subject, exited his driver's door and took a position of cover with a large tree that was pretty close to his police car, was offer additional cover. He gave verbal commands for the subject to drop the gun multiple times, and the subject made statements, and these statements we got from the subject officer, and from the witnesses, basically that I don't think so. At one point then, the subject then raised the gun up higher in line with the officer, and the officer, with no other choice, discharged his issued Glock twice, and the subject was struck and immediately fell right there at that location. And right next to him was the shotgun and the bottle of whiskey. The Officer Smith, then approached the subject, maintained cover over the individual that was on the ground, took one of his feet and slid the shotgun slightly back just a little bit to keep it out of the reach of the subject. Another officer then arrived at the scene and attempted to give some first aid to the subject. Shortly thereafter, rescue showed up. Rescue checked the individual and pronounced him deceased at the scene. I will say that listening to the subjects in the home, and we still have to go through an investigative process, obviously, but by their statements, Officer Smith saved lives. That, coupled with the malfunctioning of his own weapon, whatever caused that, those two things saved lives. So with that, I will take any questions you have.
Undersheriff Chris Parento, News4Jax. We had a friend tell us yesterday that Jacob had made comments before that he was unhappy and he was going to do something and make police take his life. Have you guys heard anything about that, or is there any credibility to that?
I have. I know that they were having some issues with Jacob, apparently some domestic issues. But as far as statements particular to what we would call suicide by cop, I personally have not heard that yet.
Dan Scanlon, TimesUnion, were there any previous calls for any confrontations he had with the family?
There were some. What we do is a call history to that address. I know that there was some other calls, but nothing to this level of significance.
But with him?
There are a few that we remember. This just happened yesterday morning, so we're going through the details of each of those. So what we have to do is go back. Like in one of them, I believe in the additional information, it says versus boyfriend. We have to go back and verify, is that the boyfriend that we're talking about? So there may be, but I don't want to give you a definitive answer one way or the other.
Larry Sproul, Action News, Jax. Has JSO had, upon on your recollection, any personal contact with him before? I know you mentioned the calls of service at his address, but
You're talking about basically a criminal history. So he has a criminal history, limited here in Duval County. He has some arrests in Nassau County. He has some arrests in Georgia. You will probably be provided, I believe they're going to give you a copy of his arrest history, his criminal history, and out of Colorado. So he had some criminal charges history in some various places all around us and some other states.
How close was she standing to him when Officer Smith was firing at him?
No, so she had made her way to the other residents at the back, had made it inside, and they were hiding in a kitchen area, I believe, as they were attempting to call the police and say, okay, we see the police. And then I want to say the grandmother or the mother, I'm not sure which, actually said, okay, I see one police car. Was concerned at first. I believe there was a statement concerned, oh no, there's only one police car. And then saw the exchange, the attempt to get him to drop the firearm, then him shoot and him drop, and the other, whichever, because it was the two women, said he's down. So there are those type of.
Have you all confirmed whether or not he had any mental health treatment prior to this?
I have not yet. And all that would be part of that stuff over the next few days. They're going to, like the question he asked, that will be secondary things that we will need to look into.
How many times did Officer Smith fire at the suspect?
2 times. And we know that by the capacity of the weapon. So when we go up afterwards, we do what's called a weapon exchange after these type, where that weapon then becomes evidence. So we count the rounds. So because of the capacity of the chambered round plus the 15 in the magazine, you can have a maximum of 15 plus 1 or 16. He had 13 plus 1, so we know that he discharged the firearm twice. We also know that we recovered both shell casings at the scene. As far as how many times the subject was shot, he was shot in the torso area. I won't be able to comment on that because you can have entry, exit, all that stuff. We have to wait for the autopsy report.
You said that he also shot, the suspect shot inside the home. Was it just one shot from the shotgun or multiple shots he fired?
One shot in the shotgun. So that initial shot that awoke in the occupants was one shot from a shotgun. It looks like potentially a buckshot, which will have anywhere 9 pellets or so. Where went shot through the window portion of a side door and into a washing machine or dryer. That was the only shot that we know of that was discharged by the subject. Every shot after that, or every attempted shot after that, for some reason his weapon did not work. So he had a fully functioning, proven weapon that would fire, shooting into the home, and then for some reason, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it, his weapon would not fire again.
Did he have additional rounds on him at the time?
I don't know about the search of his body. I know that, like I told you, at least at one of the places where he was fumbling with it, he racked out a live round, so he had additional rounds to shoot. Yes, with him when he showed up there.
Who's this gun registered to?
Don't know that yet.
Was the ex-girlfriend inside the home with her?
She was nowhere near the property. So, anybody else? Thank you very much.